What is up, everybody? This is Nursky, and I'm going to be bringing you yet another Starcraft 2 cast on behalf of MonsOnline.com, so make sure you go check them out. So let's get to the players. First off, spawning as the Blue Terran in this TVT matchup was ranked #1 GM at a time on the North American ladder in Season 2. Fell a little bit in the later end of the season, finishing around rank 3. He is going to be representing VP Gamers, and his name is Faith. And his opponent spawning to the southwest on the map, MLG Typhoon Peaks, spawning as the Green Terran, representing Team Eternal Plague, had an absolutely amazing run in the open bracket of the recent MLG Anaheim. He is going to be Gimix. And this is going to be on the map, as I stated before, MLG Typhoon Peaks, easily denoted by the fact that there is these low ground supply depots to prevent walling off at the bottom of the ramp. But no big deal overall. Do see Gimix getting up his first barracks. Looks like Faith is going to be doing the same, although a little bit of a difference in positioning. You do see Gimix kind of positioning his forward barracks to wall off at the front here of the ramp, whereas we do see Faith is going to actually be placing his barracks a little ways off from the ramp area. So that sometimes can play a little bit of an effect in a TVT situation, especially depending on if your opponent goes Hellions or not, which we did see a ton at MLG Anaheim. But depending on the types of strategy, sometimes it's not that big of a deal. Do see Faith is going to be getting his scout off first. Will shortly be getting to the base of Gimix. I'm not even sure he actually saw the SCV of Gimix go past him, but he is going to be getting to Gimix's base, and he'll be the first one to scout out his opponent and see what he is up to, and actually runs right past the Marine of Gimix, so he will get into the base. You'll see that Gimix has taken a gas, has not gone for some kind of an extremely economical opening like a 1 racks into expand where you would not take any gas. But there, the Marine finally cleans everything up and it's going to return to a forward position. Meanwhile, over here at Faith's base, we do see 2 Marines hanging out here right at the front of his ramp. 1 supply depot to make a slightly smaller choke. Gimix actually has not gotten yet to the base of Faith, and I'm not sure he's going to even actually go towards the base. It looks like he's actually going to just scout that top position and then turn around, just assuming that he's not going to actually get any scouting down. So we do see right now that Gimix is instead going to be putting down a tech lab and getting out a Reaper. He'll be using that to scout shortly. Is going to still be getting up a rather fast command center behind that Reaper. We do see over here in Faith's base is going to be going for the very fast factory and then going to be getting up a command center of his own. So both players going with a somewhat economically focused strategy in these early stages of the game. I do like these type of openings where you're doing something that might be able to apply a little bit of pressure or scout your opponent and figure out what your opponent's up to so you can decide where you want to go with your build. But at the same time, you're still going to be playing for the long game, not trying to do something really one base based where you can run into a lot of trouble if you don't actually do a lot of damage to your opponent. Looking at the income tab briefly, we do see Gimix, which is a slight lead, but not a massively at this stage of time. We do see right now Faith is going to be going for Hellions, is getting a tech lab on this factory. Do not know if he's going to be going for the blue flame Hellions or not. I'm going to assume probably not, just because he did get a reactor on this barracks. So I'm assuming he's probably going to go more of a standard tank marine type of mixture. We do see over at the front is going to be getting a bunker down fairly shortly. Over here in Gimix's base, we do see has finished that expansion command center, has gotten up a factory of his own with a tech lab, going to be going immediately to siege tanks. Has not started the siege mode yet, and is going to be getting up a starport as well. So it does look like both these players are going to be going a little more of your standard old school tank marine type of mix. Do see Faith is now switching into tanks. Does have that first Hellion out, scouting around the map a little bit, clearing out the Zelnaga towers, making sure that he does have some form of map control. Gimix briefly poked up at the front of the ramp, was shooed away by a couple of Marines. Not going to just place that Reaper over here at Faith's third. You see Faith going to be putting a bunker shortly over here at the low ground. Here comes that SCV to start producing that bunker. And probably going to be expanding very shortly. It does have that Orbital Command now morphed and ready to go. Getting up some additional barracks as well. That'll take him up to 3 barracks. Looking over here at Gimix's base, we do see he as well should be adding some buildings soon, but actually waiting to add those buildings just yet. Does have that Orbital Command down here on the low ground. Has a single Marauder out because he does have that Tech Lab barracks, but actually not getting up any additional buildings just yet, which is kind of interesting. Instead choosing to go for a couple of upgrades and some Vikings right off the bat. So this is a very interesting move by Gimix, actually sacrificing some of his actual just building production and even a little bit of his tech production in some respects for the long stages of the game, in order to just get up some fast upgrades for some of his units and to get out a couple of fast Vikings to try and help him prevent any kind of drop play or anything like that. Take control of the air. That is pretty crucial in these tank marine based styles of play to have air control on the map. You see both players now researching siege mode. Faith is going to be starting the stim upgrade now as well. Kind of just a little bit of a face-off here. Both players more focused on their economy than actually pushing their opponents at this stage of time. Do you see an extra factory going down here for Faith, getting a reactor on another one of those barracks. This is going to be going 2 reactor, 1 tech lab with those barracks so that he can get the essential marine upgrades when you are using this kind of style. But no medevacs yet, no Vikings, nothing like that. Just purely going for unit numbers and the infantry upgrades, whereas Gimix is going a little bit more for his unit upgrades and massing quite a lot of tanks in these early stages of the games rather than massing marines. You do see he is now finally adding on a couple of barracks. He's going to be adding 2 more barracks to his count. That will take him up to 3 barracks total, so he will be able to start producing quite a few more marines. Let's have that 1 marauder just in case Faith had gone with some kind of heavy Hellion type of play, even putting down some turrets. So Gimix apparently very afraid of having to deal with drops in this TVT matchup. You see Faith, on the other hand, no turrets anywhere, just a couple of marines on his perimeters, keeping tabs on what's going on around his base, even getting up a fast 3rd command center. This is what I really like about Faith's play style, always going for very, very quick expansions, never hesitant at all to be having a very macro-oriented style of play. You see Gimix not going to be actually knocking down these side door rocks, which is a very interesting move considering you do have a very easy to take 3rd base just on this ramp. I mean, in these cross positions it is in some ways towards your opponent, but pretty easily defended base over here right at your 3rd, especially if you can get a few tanks towards this mid area. If you get control of that mid area, it makes it nigh impossible for your opponent to actually prevent you from putting up that base. We do see Faith nearly has that 3rd commander center done, does have siege mode, has the stim upgrade finish, nearly has his infantry weapons level 1, getting an armory as well, so that he can get those ever essential vehicle upgrades for the later stages of the game. Combat shields now going down as well, and we see Gimix is actually going to be moving out here with a pretty substantial force. I'm not exactly sure where he's going to go, but we do see that Faith actually has a missile turret just hanging out here in the middle of the map, and it is going to spot this push coming from Gimix. A couple of shots go down on that Viking and on that medevac, but Faith will know this is coming, and Faith is immediately going to move forward, siege up his tanks, trying to get into a position so that Gimix cannot move past this. Faith now does have 2 Vikings out, so he does have the superior Viking count, and that is going to force Gimix to back up. And a couple of Marines are going to stem forward, try and pick out the Viking, but no dice, won't actually get it. And now Gimix is going to reposition himself. We do see Faith has actually put down his 3rd, building a planetary fortress by it as well. And it looks like Gimix is actually going to be retreating back towards the center of the map. Maybe going to be going for some map control. Yes, that is indeed the case. We're trying to control the front of Faith's base just a little bit. Now, Faith does have a route out of the base. You can see he's actually scouting it with a Marine right now. Wants to check and make sure Gimix hasn't planted any bases over this way or has any units over this way. Gimix has cleared out all those destructible rocks, so he has essentially opened up a secondary pathway inadvertently for Faith to go through. Faith does have some tanks where it is natural, so Gimix can't really push in here towards his 3rd. So Faith with some good positioning right now has Gimix bottled up, at least in the center of the map for now. Once Faith starts looking to take a 4th and a 5th, he'll have to worry a little bit more about those units of Gimix. But for now, in a very good position to just make sure that Gimix can't go anywhere from where he's at, and that is really all Faith needs to be doing. Looking over here at Gimix's base, we do see he has finally got up a third of his own. Going to be moving that over here and placing it down. Has not morphed it into anything yet. Would be interesting to see if he goes for a planetary fortress or a third orbital command. Has become increasingly popular by Terran players to go and use multiple orbital commands and just use your units in a good way to defend. Actually not going to be morphing it into anything just yet, so we'll be moving on and seeing what else is going on around the map here. We do see a lot of medevacs, marines, and tanks gearing up here for Gimix, and it looks like he's actually going to be sending these in an entirely different direction from the rest of his units, so maybe trying to flank the units of Faith. We'll have to wait and see where he goes with those. We do see that Faith has spotting on this third base of Gimix. We'll know that Gimix is now finally mining from that third. Upgrades going down for Gimix as well. Both players getting the level 2 infantry weapons and the level 1 armor for their infantry as well. Is going to be morphing that into an orbital command. I do like that decision by Gimix. I can understand why Faith might have morphed this into a planetary fortress, considering Gimix was moving an armada right outside of his third when he was planting that base down, but nonetheless that is going to definitely give Gimix a slight advantage. If we look at the income tab right now, we can see though that Faith does have a slight advantage, 62 to the 57 harvesters of Gimix. Now Gimix is trying to push up around the side, the flank face units. One of the tanks takes a huge hit, one tank goes down. Here comes the Marines now stemming forward, here comes Space Marines, and Faith will hold this position for now. Gimix was trying to sandwich Faith's units in, and instead both these players now a little bit of a standoff here, but more importantly, what this really does is it kind of bottles up Faith's army a little bit. He does have this one attack path he can still move through. That is one of the cool things about Typhoon Peaks. There's just so many different ways you can go after your opponents, so trying to control the entire map is so difficult. And to knock down that sensor tower will undoubtedly knock down this supply depot as well. Be interesting what Gimix does from here. Can't really move forward over here due to this one tank and a handful of Marines. Could maybe try and push in a natural, but there is a couple of tanks of Faith there. So it looks like Gimix is going to just be trying to control this area for now, kind of preventing Faith from expanding over here to this potential fourth. So Gimix could maybe get ahead in bases in the not too distant future. You do see lots of upgrades going out for both players. Even the vehicle weapons level 2 now going down for Faith. More sensor towers going up all over the map for Gimix, which is kind of an interesting choice of buildings. Sensor tower is definitely very good, especially at spotting drops and the sort, but definitely not the cheapest of buildings overall. But we do see Gimix going to be taking advantage of the positioning with his army, going to be trying to move over here and take a fourth, and at the same time he's moved up with a bunch of his Marines, going to be trying to knock down these rocks to Faith's third, but Faith sieges up a bunch of tanks out of his natural and will actually push away the forces of Gimix and then knock down the rocks himself. So for now, Gimix is not going to be able to actually pressure Faith's third, but getting up a fourth of his own as this all is going on. Do see Faith still controlling this exit over here to the north from Gimix's base, and is extremely positionally based. TVT battle. Faith now going to be trying to inch out once again from his base, maybe try and take control of this north end of the map. Does have a lot of tanks set up, and here comes the Vikings, and it allows him some spotting, gets great hits on all the Marines, takes all the Marines out, every single Marine going down. Those medevacs running for their life, and now the Vikings are just going to land right next to the tanks. Tanks can't shoot the Vikings. Unsieging now, and the Marines will come and clean that up, and Faith will now have a clear opening into his fourth base, so he can finally get this orbital command over here to his fourth. We do say Gimix does now finally have his fourth completed as well, is transferring a couple of SCVs over there, but now Faith is moving out and he has some bad intentions. Look at the supply. You see Gimix with a slight lead income-wise, so Faith with about a 10 harvester lead, and now Faith actually moving forward, gets the siege up just before Gimix. Will he actually be able to take these out? Yes, he will. Faith taking out this middle area, and this is going to actually trap Gimix's forces between a rock and a hard place. Lots of forces for Faith over here towards his natural. Lots of forces now cutting him off from retreating. So these units basically stranded on an island of their own right now. There's nothing Gimix can do about it. Faith does have air superiority at this point in time of the game. So there's really nothing Gimix can do about this. Does have a couple of tanks sieged up here, preventing Faith from moving forward, but using those Vikings to spot, picking off a handful of Marines. So Faith right now reversing the contain on Gimix, and look at this, Faith moving out with another force down through this southern passage. But here comes a ton of Marines for Gimix, and these tanks are not sieged, and Gimix may actually roll over this entire force. This can be absolutely huge, swinging the supply in Gimix's favor. Gonna take out that entire force of Faith, and now is moving forward is Gimix with this giant Marine force. But at the same time over here, just north of Gimix's base, we do see Faith starting to try and inch forward just a little bit, but not going to be able to get too far because Gimix does have a single tank and some Marines planted over here at this northern edge of his base. Gimix, meanwhile, looks like he's thinking about moving towards natural Faith, but actually going to turn around, and Faith actually now double expanding here. Going to be taking his 5th and his 4th base at the same time, moving both of these bases out. Still has a small force in the middle of the map, keeping some form of contain here. Now we see Gimix going to be doing a scan to try and get rid of this tank over here next to the Zalaga Tower. Will not be able to do so. And Gimix actually not doing anything with these Marines. Now, Faith does have a couple of tanks sieged up over here, but really does not have a good positioning here. But now Faith scans and sees the forces of Gimix, and Faith is moving on. I do not know if Gimix is even aware. I do not see him making any moves, and now Faith will stem, and Gimix actually, his Marine's not stemming. He does not even know this is going on, and it's going to be a huge advantage for Faith, and he's going to absolutely obliterate this group of Marines as he moves forward. At the same time, though, Gimix cleaning up Faith's forces in the middle of the map, and Faith will once again lose control of the middle of the map, but now Faith is going to be moving over here towards the north, now finally pressing forward over here towards the natural of Gimix. At the same time, he has a force moving over here towards the 4th and 5th bases of Gimix as well. Going to be trying to get into position to get the better siege up positioning. Does siege up now, and some of those tanks are in position of both of these bases, actually. So Faith will actually be able to shell both of these bases from this position. We now do see over here towards the north, Gimix is going to be bringing a handful of Marines to try and take out these tanks. Tanks on the siege, take out those Marines. Now trying to move forward, once again, sieging up. Does look like Gimix is going to clean that up, but right now Faith is doing the damage over here to the south over here at the 4th and 5th base of Gimix, shelling away at both of these bases, preventing mining from either one as these planetary fortresses do more. Meanwhile, we do see that Faith already has his northern base mining, even has his 5th up, not even mining from it just yet. And we do see a transition, guys, here as Faith has 4 starports with the tech lab, and what could these be for? That's right, guys. He's got a fusion core. He is going to be going battle cruisers, as we do see he is getting the vehicle weapon level 3 upgrade, now finally taking out that 4th base of Gimix and that 5th base as well, pinning Gimix back on far less bases, about to have level 3 weapons for his vehicles. We do see that Gimix actually has not started a single vehicle weapon upgrade most of this entire game, just now getting to level 1, and this could play out huge for Faith, because as these battle cruisers come into play, with the ever-decreasing numbers of Marines for Gimix, he's going to have an absolutely abysmal time trying to hold off these battle cruisers. They could make the difference in this game. Faith has now taken out both of these bases, just a couple of siege tanks remaining over here for Gimix, holding Faith back from pressing into his 3rd, but Gimix desperately needs to get a 4th base up, because as you can see, his natural just about mined out. 3rd still healthy, but right now we do see, here comes Faith moving up, has loaded up a couple of Marines, going to be dropping the Marines on top of the siege tanks to take them out, and meanwhile over up here to the north, another siege tank battle going down. Looks like Faith was actually trying to transfer a couple of SCVs, and Gimix will catch a bunch of those SCVs and take them out. But both players will actually hold position over here. Meanwhile, Faith moving forward over here to the south, now shelling away at Gimix's 3rd base, and this is incredibly bad for Gimix. We do see now those battle cruisers moving out over here as well to the north, multitasking everywhere across the map. Gimix is going to be retreating a few of his tanks to try and deal with these tanks of Faith over here at his 3rd so that he can actually utilize it. But here comes the battle cruiser force by Faith, going to easily take out this Viking. Now storming forward, going to be getting a good position on these siege tanks. These siege tanks have absolutely no Marines around them. Taking out the medevacs now one by one are these battle cruisers. Not going to be much Gimix can do. Siege tanks over here to his south. Absolutely no mineral mining almost anywhere on the map for Gimix, and this is absolutely terrible for Gimix, as right now these battle cruisers now moving forward, marching across the siege tanks. Going to clear all of these siege tanks out of the center of the map and give Faith an absolutely decided advantage, as he does have the supply lead and there's nothing Gimix can do about it. And there's the GG. Faith has won the game. Absolutely amazing position-based TVT battle by both players, like 2 players, like high-level caliber chess players, just going back and forth on the map, repositioning and then positioning their units once again. Some really key scans by Faith really allowed him to clean up a few of Gimix's forces, and then those awesome vehicle level upgrades inevitably allowed him to get to the battle cruisers, which he did not have the upgrades for on the battle cruisers, but with those 3 O's on the tanks, his tanks were just far superior to Gimix's tanks. Was able to win a couple of key decisive tank battles, and the battle cruisers were just icing on the cake, allowing Faith to win this matchup. So on behalf of modsonline.com, I am Nursky. I'm going to be getting out of here, guys. You can always follow me at VP Nursky on Twitter. You can check me out at the Mods Online YouTube at youtube.com/modsonline. And I will see you guys at the next cast. Peace easy, guys.